And I think that's why people don't stick with it, or they get scared
It gets heavy.
because it's a lot. And I used to always say, like, um, anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I didn't realize that I was devaluing the work that I was putting into it. And I think that
Mm.
anybody can heal, right? Anybody can. As long as you wanna do it, you make the decision, you can do it, but you have to really put the work in. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking About It. Today we are talking about healing, growth, and what it really means to move beyond simply surviving. If you've ever felt stuck in old patterns, overwhelmed by anxiety, burnout, addiction, trauma, or just exhausted from trying to keep it all together, today's conversation is for you. My guest is Sara Guzman. She's the author of Thrive Map and the founder of Thrive or Die Recovery. Through her work, Sara helps people understand that recovery isn't just about stopping harmful behaviors or making it through another day. It's about learning how to build a life you can want to live. Her approach combines self awareness, nervous system healing, and practical action to help people move from survival mode into a place of growth, purpose, and trust in themselves again. And y'all, I've been reading the book. It's fantastic. As a person who is going through the healing process, I wish I would have had something like this in the beginning. So let's just get on into it. And yeah, here we go. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sara. I appreciate you for responding to me right away and like being able to set this up. So thank you so much.
Yes, no, thank you. Thank you for reaching out. It's amazing to hear the feedback from you having read the book and that strong intro. It was such a good intro.
I do my homework. I'm a nerd. I do my homework. And also, like, it wasn't a difficult intro to write because it's what it is. You know what I mean? So just thank you for writing it. Because I really think that healing is not linear. I say it all the time. And your book kind of allows people to see for themselves like a map. It really is a map. Like, yeah, so we'll get into like the title and things like that. But yeah, if you can just give everybody a brief little intro on yourself. I always feel it's better when the guest gives it the bio than I do because I'll butcher it.
So my name is Sarah. I am 33 years old. I have been in recovery for 3.5 years. But prior to that, I was in a 2-year relapse cycle. And prior to that, I was on and off of drugs, depressed, anxious, just struggling with my spiritual identity. And that went on for like 15 years. So I started young. Um, and I think that most of that was because of my upbringing. I was brought up in an environment of domestic violence. And I'm not one to blame everything on my childhood, but I also see the correlation between the lack of resources that I had growing up. I didn't learn about emotional intelligence or management until my 20s. And so that's a little bit of my background. Lately, I have been working on the launch of my book, and I also have a course that covers the same concepts. But I understand that a lot of people are like visual learners,
Hmm.
and so I wanted to have something like that where it's just me speaking to the camera. Uh, for those that don't read,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I was looking for an audio version because sometimes it's easier for me to absorb when I'm listening to it, or you know, just for regulating, usually I have headphones. Wow, that's fucking progress right there. Even on podcast, I'll have like rain or something in my
Seen
ear to like
those.
help me like calm, like just kind of keep my brain steady. And look, I just noticed right now I'm not wearing any, so fuck yeah,
High
another
five.
progress step. Thanks. Yes, that's
Yes.
cool. But yeah, I was looking for an audio, but honestly, y'all, both ways are fantastic, but I was reading it, and maybe it's because it's just very well written, and I was able to understand it that I was, like, just scrolling through, so no, it's a great book, so let's talk about it a little bit. So looking back, um, I realized that I spent so much of my time and again, we kinda talked about it a little bit, like, you're ahead of the game, girl. Like, you said you're 33, like, so far ahead of where I was. I think we kind of probably started around the same time, like, really doing work 3 years ago. That's about the time that I really started kind of, like, digging in. Well, that's when I started, and then it was, like it took me about a year or so to, like, trust and, like, fully be like, "Okay, okay, I'm gonna do this." And then I kept, like, you reverting back to those patterns, right? And I was in therapy. But yeah, so, like, looking back in that whole time, like, I was trying to do it by myself, right? I had been speaking to counselors since I was, like, 7 or 8 years old.
Mhm.
So I already knew, like, how to answer the questions so that I wouldn't have to go see them anymore. I never felt like they cared what was going on. I mean, I was 37 when I was diagnosed with anxiety and panic attacks. So I went that whole time from 6 years old to 37 without being diagnosed with anything. So I was doing it on my own, right? Reading the books, listening to the podcasts, and I felt like that was all I needed to do, right? So how do they know the difference between healing and just collecting all of the information to, like, know about it?
Yes, yes, and I think that's a huge commonality in recovery where it's like you gather a lot of and that's what I did too, for years before my relapse. I had already been going to therapy and reading the books and gathering all the information. And I think it's a part of the process of change, because you have to navigate through contemplating and then taking small steps towards that direction. And then you kind of wrestle with that inner self. Um, but I think that it's a process. And how can I put this? Like you could tell by the results, pretty much. But it's a hard question to answer.
Right? It and,
Yeah.
like, that's what I was trying to get another perspective because, I talk on the show a lot about kind of my journey, and the reason I do that is because when I was going through it, I didn't have spaces like this where people were talking to me going through the journey. It's always on the other side, right? And when they're on the other side, I don't know if they forget or maybe some of these people just are, like, not legit and hadn't really gone through it. I don't know, maybe they're plants. But, like, that's why I created the podcast, right, was to have this platform to be able to break the stigmas and to show people, like, this is what it is when you're, like, going through the healing journey. If you watch episodes from a year ago, it's different. And I think that for me personally was, like, I needed all the information. Like, I was a nerd, I'm a bookworm. So I knew all of the diagnoses, I knew all of the symptoms, I knew everything. And when I went to therapy, or when I 3 years ago when I started therapy, she was telling me, "Well, this," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I know."
Mm.
And it's like, "Bitch, you know, but you're not
You're
implementing the
not
things.
doing it. Yes, you're not
You're not
integrating it.
doing the work." Yeah, and I think that that's where we get stuck.
Give yourself time to evolve into the person that can practice those that knowledge, you know?
Right.
And
We have to be
that
open to somebody and, like,
right.
guiding us, so you have all the information, what are you gonna do with it? It's like your
And I
book. You're mapping it out for people in a way where it's, like,
and it's bite
literally
size. you know?
Yeah, and the way that you're doing it, it's fantastic. I'm telling you, and I was reading it, I was like, this yes, like reading it through my eyes, it's a fantastic map. But if people aren't ready to take the steps, they're gonna
Yes,
be like
this
us, and we're gonna be doing the same patterns
and I
over
think it
and
has a
over.
lot to do with the fact that we make change to be like this big mountain, this big
Mm,
obstacle. Um, but if you can just kind of simplify all of the knowledge that you're taking in and be like, how can I put this into effect, into practice in a small way, the smallest way that you can think of, just one small shift per day. And be patient with it, because you can't expect yourself to just go from healing to overnight just living a new way. But I also think like healing is it can have different stages, and the healing that you go through at the beginning of your awakening or whatnot, it's not the healing that you go through when you're like in your maintenance stage. So the healing that happens at the beginning, I think is super heavy and hard, and it makes life feel so difficult, is because it's the confrontation, right? You're confronting everything that you're trying to change, and then it feels so overwhelming, and you're kind of just figuring it out as you go. But I think as you grow into your healing, life starts feeling a little bit lighter, and you start feeling a little more capable. And as you build that self confidence, I think that's when you start noticing that you're no longer surviving. And then it's like, hey, I can actually co create a life that I want to be alive for, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and I think you kind of, hit it on the head there. I think, you said confidence, and confidence, I think, is the number one, barrier, or it's the number one thing that is missing in anyone who is wanting to heal. And the reason I say that is because and this is for high functioning people who have anxiety, depression, and you're just fucking go, go, go. That's partial survival
Most
mode,
people,
but and the other half of that is look at people who live lives like that, and they're the best at whatever it is that they're doing. Whatever
mhm,
their job is, they're the best at it. Whatever
over
it is, overachievers. And we're so fucking confident in the shit that we're doing, and that's why people like that are the strong friends. You're put into this category because you put yourself there. Because you're in control of everything, because as people who have gone through trauma, you want to control everything around it. So when you're high functioning, you're doing that, right? You're top of the class, overachievers, and you're overconfident in those things. Where you lack confidence is when you have to, like you said, look into the mirror, look into yourself and say,
it's a whole different ballgame.
"Oh shit," because you're not ready for it. And this isn't to scare people into healing. It's to say you cannot do one thing, like you cannot skip steps and expect to get to the end game. You have to literally look yourself in the mirror, and it's hard. We talked a little bit, you
Courage.
mentioned, yeah, you mentioned, you didn't like to blame all of the childhood on your circumstances, and I think that we get so trained to have the victim mentality and to blame our childhood for everything, and yeah, it fucking sucked. The trauma, the not having resources, the feeling of how we felt, it sucked. But you can't let the victim mentality keep you there. You have to be willing to take those first steps, take the baby steps
Mhm.
to start the recovery. And you can't jump around. I'm gonna go with Super Mario because that's the one that most everybody knows. Before them cheat codes, like you had to go through each level of the game. And then unless you found, like, the flute and then you can, like, jump. But you have to get to a certain point first, you know what I mean? So you have to, like, get through each level of recovery so that you can make it through. And even then, when you would get the flute and go into a different world, you would die all right away because it's like you don't know what to do. It was just kind of like repetition, and that's how healing is,
Yeah,
video games and healing, because I think that
I love
as an
analogies.
as an '80s kid, well, I was '81, grew up in the '90s, um, video games for us, or Mario specifically, was like were to teach you something. You were learning critical thinking, you were learning problem solving, you were learning something all the time.
Something.
Teaching, yeah, so I don't know, that's a whole 'nother story, but anyway, I digress, let me get back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a matter of finding that confidence. So let me ask you, one of the things that, your book talks about, and I feel like just in healing in general, is the nervous system. The first book that my therapist suggested to me, because I had all the answers, she was like, "Okay, read, uh, The Body Remembers."
The
I'm
body
gonna
keeps
look
the
it up.
score.
Keep The Body Keeps Score, yes. And I was like, "Okay." And so I read it, and I was like, "Holy shit." Within the first 2 or 3 chapters, I was like, "Yes." And the book, if you haven't read it, um, uh, look it up. It is on Audible. You can find the physical copy in stores, but it's very good about talking about your nervous system and trauma, and how your body
Hold.
holds on to that stuff, and like your memory.
It
It's
it
so weird.
it holds like the memory of emotions that were not
Yes.
released. So I love that book. I skimmed through it when I was in my early recovery. Um, and it really set the tone to the bigger picture of what's happening, because I think
Yes.
we forget about the body sometimes. We're so caught up with our mind and our thoughts and our emotions that we're like we leave the body out of the equation, when in reality it's like it's holding so much. And until we have compassion for everything that we're holding, and then that courage topic comes back, right? Because it takes courage to feel as much as it takes courage to see yourself clearly.
We ignore the body. We take pills, we take medication, we work out, we do all of these things so that our body feels better, but our brain is not in the same thing.
And
So,
then
like, your
that disconnect.
big time disconnect. Yeah. I used to say all the time, like, I can't get my brain, like, if my brain was feeling strong, my body was, like, in pain. Like, I would have aches, and my
Wow.
back would hurt, and my neck would lock up, and my elbows would hurt. Like, I would have so much physical pain, or my stomach would be upset, or, you know, and opposite, if my body felt good, I was, like, super anxious, like, "What the fuck? Like, what is going on?" I couldn't ever get it to line up, and I would talk to my therapist about it, and I talked to my primary care provider about it, and I'm like, "What is the disconnect?" And I think it was because I was dysregulated. My nervous system was still super sensitive, and when you're doing the work, your brain is doing the work, but your body's gotta catch up, because you have to retrain your
Yeah.
nervous system for some of the feelings that you hit, which is where I talk a lot about exposure therapy, and how, like, that helps. That's what helps me.
Yeah.
But yeah, go
For
ahead.
me, I think that when I started paying attention to my nervous system and not ignoring my body, and having compassion for everything that I was holding, I think that was the key that helped me finally break some patterns. Because
Mhm.
I went through so many cycles of like I'm gonna change and I'm gonna change, and I would always quit. And this last time, I finally started paying attention to my body, considering my nervous system, and then going at a pace that felt safe. And then I didn't quit. So I think that was a huge component for me.
Yeah. No, and I like in your book how um you focus on reframing. So, like, you reframing it instead of, "What's wrong with you?" Like, "What's wrong with my body? What's going on?"
Why
It's
do
like,
I feel like
"W
this, right?
do I feel like this? Why whenever I smell a certain smell does my stomach turn? Why when somebody snaps at me or looks at me in a way does it make me feel a type of way? Like, what's causing that?"
Reaction.
the reaction, yeah, and until you are able to, and that kind of goes back to the CBT, right? The cognitive behavioral therapy, because what you're doing is you're rewiring your brain to not be connected to those emotions that you felt whenever that trauma happened.
And
I'm a
that's
huge
literally what's happening.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for healing the inner child. Um, the another thing that my therapist, I
Yeah.
have an amazing therapist, y'all. So, Dr. Ortiz, Mind Forward Health Center, we're working together to bring you guys events so that you can learn from her as well. And she's so fantastic about opening up and wanting to help people. And I've been through a million freaking counselors, therapists, psychiatrists, and it took me, I don't know, 6 years to find somebody that actually, like, would listen and connected with me. But so when you're healing, guys, you maybe cognitive behavioral therapy isn't gonna help you. Maybe somatic therapy helps you better. But, like, for me specifically, it was a combination of
Yeah.
therapies. So it was like we started with the cognitive behavioral therapy, and then I was like, "Well, my stuff is more physical." So then we went into somatic therapy, and that's dealing with your physical and your connections.
And
You
for
go ahead,
some
yeah, because I know.
people it's like a spiritual component, you know, like I like to say there's like your spiritual, your mental, and then your physical. So like I think recovery can begin at any of those levels. And for many people it is, you do need to pull help from a little bit of each one, you know.
Yeah, for sure, and you talk about it too, that you, did different types of therapies, um, because I think you said you said DBT?
Yes, dialectical behavior.
Can you, talk about that a little bit? 'Cause, I had Grizz, from 93.1 on, last year, and he mentioned that that thing that helped him the most was the DBT. Can you speak on that a little bit and just kinda let
Yeah.
people know what it is?
Yeah, for sure. So that is actually the second time I went to therapy. The first time I did 3 months of CBT, just 3 months, and then I was like, I've learned enough. Let me go apply it. Um, and the time that I started doing DBT, I was in active use. I was drinking 3, 4 times a week. I was doing drugs, combining drugs, not sleeping, and I was getting tired of it, you know, and I was about to turn 30, and I said, I don't want the next 10 years of my life to look like the last 10 years of my life. And I said, I need help. I need help. And I told my mom and my sister, hey, I'm struggling with this. I need you guys to hold me accountable. And then after that, I got a therapist, and I was just searching, you know, through my insurance to see what is in my network. And then I knew that I didn't want to do CBT again because it just
You had
felt
already
like
done it.
I was repeating the same concepts, and I felt like I needed something different. And so I came across DBT, and it said that it would help with addiction. And so I said, let me give it a shot. And the main thing that helped me, I think, was that my therapist was helping me not live in shame. And so every session, it wasn't like, where did you fail? Or like, do what I'm telling you to do. I don't know. It was just it was a very casual conversation, you know, and it was just like, how did your week go? Like, what did you struggle with? Um, what is it that you want in your life? And I identified, you know, well, I want to be sober. But it wasn't expected of me to change overnight. She didn't tell me like, okay, set your sober date, or when are you gonna quit, or okay, overnight, cut back. She left it all the decisions were left up to me, and then I was going according to my pace, which my choice was, let me start cutting back, you know, and I went from going out like 4 times a week to maybe two, and then when I got it down to like once a week, I was still binging. So even though I would go out once a week, I was staying out till 3 p.m. the next day, you know? And that before used to feel to me like I failed, like I'm never going to be able to change. Like I can't even stay sober for a full week. I can't even get home when I said I'm going to get home. And it's so easy to fall into that shame loop. And DBT for me helped me break that because it wasn't anymore about like, what are you failing to do or what are you not able to do? It was more about like, what is the drinking doing for you that you're not meeting that need somewhere else? Like, what are you getting out of the drinking? And it was more focusing objectively on the behavior. How do you feel? It was like a lot of awareness. She would ask me questions like,
Yeah.
how do you feel when you're drinking? How do you actually feel when you get home at 3 p.m. the next day? You know, do you actually enjoy it? And I realized like I don't even enjoy it anymore. It's just a habit. And without the shame, you remove the shame, you add some objective perspective in there, and then you can see clearly, and then your decisions just kind of like align. Because
Mhm.
when there's not that tension, that emotional charge of that fear and shame, it's so much easier to make decisions from that place.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's beautiful the way that you're describing it because going to therapy and how it worked for you, right? Like you went through CBT, you learned what that was, you know how to apply those skills. And then you were like, wait, shit's still the same. I might not be going out as often, but I'm still doing the same thing. And then you were like, all right, I need something else. You looked up the DBT and you found a therapist. And I think this is huge, guys. When you're looking for a therapist or for help, guidance, therapists, what I've learned from Dr. Ortiz and her staff is therapists are not going to tell you what to do. They shouldn't be telling you what to do. They guide you. They're there to teach you tools and guide you through how to use them. They're not there to tell you, when to quit or how to quit or what you need to do. They're supposed to just guide you. So the way that you're speaking on the therapist that you went to, that's that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to feel like a conversation. You know,
And
I
a safe
I get
space.
and a safe space. You're supposed to
That
just
is like
be
so important.
it's huge, especially people who have trauma or are living in survival mode. Our body is trying to find safety. Our body is in fight or flight mode. And when you're not feeling safe, then you're going to be all over the place. Finding those safe spaces where you can have a conversation with somebody and they can guide you through how to get to the next level, like, that's what therapy is.
Yeah.
That's what therapy should be. You shouldn't if you're in therapy and you are feeling like, "This bitch is just telling me what to do, and I'm doing it, and I'm not changing," like,
Right. That's
find
not
a new
yeah.
therapist. Find a new therapist, like, you know, I more recently have been seeing a lot of things on life coaches and, coaching and things like that, and it's 1, it's expensive, and 2, it's like a lot of them don't have the training to help guide you through the things, and I think that therapy is so important, even if you use it just in a little way. Like me with CBT as well. I think I picked up CBT pretty quickly because it was like, what's causing this? And then make the connection. What's causing
Yeah.
this? And then that's when we did somatic therapy. And then when I got further along, I was forgetting the CBT, which was causing me to spiral out and go back into patterns. And my therapist is like, let's go back to CBT. And she
Even
gave me
now I
worksheets.
forget.
Yeah, isn't it
Even
crazy?
now.
Like, that's the
Yeah.
one you pick up the fastest, and it's the one that you forget the most, but
Quickest, yeah.
it's a very good anchor to have, and so she's like, "Here's some worksheets." And that's all it is. "Here are some worksheets.
So it's a lot
Fill
of
it out."
awareness, a lot of awareness of
Yes.
your thoughts, and then like taking ownership of this is how I'm thinking is literally influencing my experience of life. And so
Yes.
it's a combination of both. But I love it, and it super helped me so much. Like those 3 months, that was my first time going to therapy, and I felt such a relief that it was like, okay, there's hope. Like if I can be aware of my thoughts and direct them to a helpful, empowering perspective, then I can get better. And when
Yes.
I realized that, it was like, okay, I can relax. Like it's gonna be okay. Because I had been living with symptoms for like the 15 years, yeah. And so
Yeah,
when
and
I,
the and
it was amazing.
go ahead. No, the way that you're saying it, like, you had that awareness and you were like, "Okay, I'm gonna get better." The
Hmm.
fact that you had that awareness speaks volumes about you and the confidence that you had within yourself, regardless of the situations that you were in, regardless of what you were going through, you had that confidence in yourself to do that. Through my healing, I never had the confidence that I'm gonna get better. I never saw it getting I'm like, "It's gonna be the same." Like,
Oh
I just have to
wow,
live with it. Like,
you didn't
it
have
is what
that
it is.
hope.
I did not have that hope because my whole entire life, anytime things would get better, something would happen and I would feel like I would slide all the way back, and then you just quit and stop and
So
whatever.
it had just
And
happened so many times that you internalized that.
my entire life, since I was 6 years old is when I had, started having panic attacks. Trauma started around that time as well,
So how did you
different.
find your way to hope, or like to begin that journey?
It's been recent. It's been recent. I took the steps to healing because I wanted to get better for my children. For me, my whole world was my kids and raising them in an environment that was completely different from what I grew up in. And so I took the steps because I was tired of my baby girl seeing me in bed for days and making sure to call my husband to say, "Hey, we need groceries," or "We need food," or calling my mom like, "Hey, Nana, we need can you come make dinner?" You know what I mean? Like, I
So for
didn't
you,
want to have that.
it
It was
wasn't
I kn
the hope, it was taking ownership. You took ownership of everything about your
y
motherhood.
yeah, it was for other people because that was my life, right? I would always whatever anybody needed, regardless of how it made me feel, that was what I would put out. And so I started the journey for my kids, to be a better wife, to for everybody else, I did it. And in the midst of it, I started to find the confidence in myself, like, "Wait, okay." And that built my confidence, like, things can change. Like, just today, this morning, I cut my finger with some scissors. Before, that would have thrown me over the edge. Like, I would have been like, "Tetanus, is it it's bleeding." Like, I would have just been like, "Ah, frazzled." It
Spiraling.
happened. Yeah, I would have spiraled for sure. I and then my mom and my daughter were getting ready to leave, so I would have been by myself, and it would have just gotten worse, right? And it happened, and I was like, "Fuck," because it hurt. I was like, "Fuck." I looked at my finger, I went and washed my hands, I sprayed the bacitracin or Bactine on it. I was like, "It's not bleeding.
That was
Okay."
it.
And then I got ready for the date, and I looked back at that mo and I'm able to catch it now. I'm able to catch my progress a lot now
That's so
faster.
important too.
It is, it makes a big difference when you see the progress, and this is just maybe 3 weeks that I've been able to sit back and see my progress. I'm like, "Okay." Because, guys, when I'm telling you, you guys are following me along in my journey, you are literally following me along in my journey, and I am learning these things in real time, and I'm
As you
sharing with
go.
you,
That's how
like
I feel.
yeah, and, I was kind of stalking you a little bit on Instagram and, like, just watching your videos from as far back as, like, 2022,
There's a
2023
difference.
when you start talking because you're like, "I'm putting these things out here," and you're just kind of saying the thing, and I'm like, "Yes, like, yes, I get it." And even though our circumstances were different, I dealt with, I guess, addiction with alcohol, I was the same way. I didn't drink every day, I didn't go out every day. I would drink once a week, but on Saturdays, I would go ham. Like,
Mm,
I would drink till 5 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? Like,
nonstop. Mm.
it nonstop.
So you were still
And I was
binging.
yeah, I was binging, I was angry, I was miserable, like it was just, that was my coping mechanism. But alcohol for me was when I was 13, 14, 15 is when I started drinking. When I was in
Yeah,
high
me
school,
too.
we used to go to Juarez across the way
Hmm.
here. We'd go to school, they'd drop us off. And well, for me, I had a car when I was 15. So I'd go to school, we'd pick everybody up, and then we'd go across the border. And then we'd come back before the bell rang.
It's
So, like,
crazy.
for me, right? So for me, alcohol was something. So let's talk a little bit about the recovery aspect because I think all of it kind of ties in together where we use things as coping mechanisms. For me specifically was alcohol. Um and it's not to help you cope, it's to help you numb is what I've learned. It's to help us forget and to not deal with and to avoid. So you talk a lot about your recovery as something bigger than just stopping the behavior, right? Like you can quit drinking, um, but until you like start to do work, then you start to really understand it. So what's the difference between being sober, functioning, or surviving versus like truly like thriving?
I think when you're just focusing on getting sober, nothing about your life changes, right? Like you still have the same um friends, environment, habits. You're not focused on wellness, you're not focused on personal development. You're just focused on, I want to quit this thing for so and so reason. And I just, if I could just stop, then everything would be great. If I could just stop, then my whole life would be so improved. And versus recovery, you're looking at your whole self, spirit, mind, body. You're looking at your habits, you're improving your overall health and wellness, your vitality, your longevity. You're making it sustainable, and you're building the new. Because when you're just focused on sobriety, you're fighting the old, you're just fighting that thing
Mhm.
you're trying to get rid of. But when you're focused on recovery, you're focused on your future, your opportunities, the possibility. What are you excited about? What makes you feel alive? What do you enjoy? And that is such a different experience
Yeah.
than the former, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I like that you say that. And we talked a little bit, I don't know if it was on camera, off camera, where, you know, we grieve for like the version of us that we were, right? Like you go through that. You start to like a snake shed all of these. Oh no, not a snake. Is it onions that has layers? Or is it snake that keeps on shedding? It's both, right? I knew it. I was doing way too good in this interview for me to not have an Ashley moment. So there it is. But yeah, it's like you're constantly shedding. When you're going through this healing journey, regardless of how your version of it is, you're like dumping layers of baggage and you're accepting it and letting it go. And, you know, I think we hold on to things so much that it adds to wanting to continue to drink. And like the loyalty that we talked about, you don't want to change things. And I used to be so anti change as well. But now it's like, fuck it. Like, yeah, let's try it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And then, of course, my brain will go to the worst that can happen. And then I'm like, "Oh, I'm in it now, so
Doing it
so
anyway.
we gotta let it ride." Um, but yeah, I think when you're continuously shedding these things, you start to just feel lighter and you get more confidence and you grow and you feel better. But let's hit a little bit, Sarah, on self-led recovery. What self-led recovery is. I think that I found it super interesting, like your definition of it and how you go about it.
Yeah, so it's pretty much just you directing your recovery pathway, right? Because there's this thing called recovery pathways. And so you can choose AA, you can choose going through church, you can choose getting a coach and then them telling you this is what you're gonna do. Uh, but for me, like I went to church for many, many years, and when I was in church, I never managed to live out a sustainable recovery. It was always falling back, because it was so black and white. it was like, you can't do all of this. And if you deviate from this path, then you're wrong and you are off and you failed,
Yeah.
and then you have to start over. And then there's that shame cycle again. And then there's also like AA is also very black and white, like where you can't there's just so many things that if you don't do, then you're off track. And to me, it's like you need to have more grace, and like I know people that have stopped doing hard drugs and they still smoke cigarettes, you know? And then there's people that frown upon that. They frown upon the cigarettes. There's people that maybe have quit their hard drug of choice, but they still drink.
Mm.
Or there's
What
people
is it,
that
like
are,
the California sober? Is that what that is? Like,
yeah,
I used to hear about that a lot, like California sober, and I'm like, I don't for me, I couldn't understand it. I'm like, I don't get it. But how you're
that's what it means.
explaining
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
that makes sense.
you still do something, but the thing you struggle with, then that's the part that you don't do, right? And so to me, self-led, it just means you take into consideration your journey, your life experience, your personality, your character, your values, your principles. You take all of that into consideration, and then you determine what is your next best step. What is your next path? Am I going to choose medical assisted therapy, right? Because you can also get sober through medicine. You could go and get medical treatment that is going to support your recovery. You know, there's that pathway, and there's just so many ways that you could go about it. You can go through a spiritual retreat if you want to start that way. You can go through therapy, and so that's pretty much the essence of it. Is you choose your pathway and you choose the next best step based on your internal compass. And that's also what it's about. It's developing that relationship with your inner self to where the decisions that you make are also going to bring you more confidence and build your self autonomy.
Yeah. You're teaching accountability and ownership because that's what it is. Like you need that in order to move to
To
the next
make
step
it.
and
Yeah.
to make it. And I love that you offer a way where it's accessible to people. And I think that having that map and then also figuring out, oh, well, maybe I will try therapy. And therapy is so accessible nowadays too. There's like online therapy, there's all kinds of different ways. So, I think um I've been seeing a lot. Like I have people that I follow like on Facebook and stuff, and not people that I'm like have relationships with her. It's like Facebook, people add people or whatever. And so I see some of these people who struggle with recovery, and I'll see their post and it's like all over the place. And then it's like, I'm taking a break, I'm gonna be sober, or I'm gonna change my phone number. And you know what, like all of these things, and it's like if you're doing the same
You're,
cycles,
you're
like they
trying
need
to do
your
it
book.
backwards.
I'm gonna put your book on, up on there because seriously, like I think if you're not that you're stubborn, but if you think that none of these other ways is going to help you, then the Thrive map is a fantastic way for you to get a map and like find your way that's going to help you, and then whatever speaks to you, then
Right. You go with that.
expand on it. Yeah, expand
Mhm.
on it.
And then
And what
when
I
you're
like,
there, you get so we're okay.
other
Now that
things
I'm
start to
here,
Mhm.
okay, now that's options.
Yeah, you start to open up, like it's crazy how much like how small our vision is when we're like how tunnel vision we are when we're in addiction, when we're in recovery, when you're in survival mode, whatever it is, our sights are like this tiny, tiny tunnel. And once you start doing and putting in the work, like I cannot emphasize this enough, y'all. You have to fucking do the work. A pill might make you feel better for a minute, but you're going to feel, again, shame cycle. You're going to feel all of these things. So, like, until you start to do the work, that's when you'll start to notice change. And there was a quote when I was in high school. It used to always, that was like my thing that I always had like on my posters. Like, I used to have my walls filled with posters and magazine cuttings of like words.
Yeah.
And one of them that I always had was life's a journey, not a destination. Maybe I just fucking jinxed myself with all this stuff as a kid. I don't know. Because boy, it really is a journey. Like,
That's a good one though.
and it is, and it's one that I still live. It's a journey, not a destination. But when you get in a depressive state, when you're in a state where you're feeling out of control and you're scrambling, that journey seems like out of reach.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you, like you have to do whatever it is to take those first steps to get
Whatever
out
it
of that.
takes. I
Whatever
think
it takes.
that's the bottom of it. The bottom of the page is you have to pull whatever strength you have left in you, whatever it is that you have left, every ounce, muster up any ounce of strength and willpower and put it towards finding out what works for you. Like that's the bottom of it for me is you have to do whatever it takes to find what works for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and you
nobody
keep
else
trying
can do it.
things. And you keep trying things, and it's okay. It's okay if you're doing things and you're doing work, but something's not working for you, and then you go to the next thing. That's totally fine, because you're continuing to try. But if it doesn't work for you in one phase, doesn't mean that it won't work for you in another phase. Like maybe had I started with somatic therapy, it wouldn't have been as effective than the way that I started with CBT. So it's just healing is not linear. It is different for everybody. It's just something that you have to do. Um but yeah, I really love your book. I can't um say more nice. I mean, I think it's a fantastic start. I think that you, Sarah, are brave and courageous and inspiring, and I think that you sharing your story the way that you're sharing it is going to just help a lot of people, and I hope that people listening make sure that they look out for your book and the recovery website. So it's www.thriveordierecovery.com. I have it on the screen here. So I'll make sure that I link it to the video so that you guys can not clock in, click in. Jesus, here we go again. And just because you heal doesn't mean that you have it all together. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you don't mess up. It doesn't mean that you
You don't forget
shit
what you
doesn't go
learned.
bad. Yeah, it doesn't mean any of that. All
Yeah.
it means is that you learn to handle what's coming at you and you don't freak out about it. It doesn't take you back to wanting to use it, or it might, right? It might take you back to wanting to use, but you have the tools to say
Stay in the
like,
game.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, you guys just have to do the fucking work. Um, let's see.
I love that.
You just have to do the
In
fucking
case
work.
you didn't hear me the first time,
Girl, I say it almost on every
it's
episode.
the motto.
I'm like, you just have to do the fucking like there's just like I am of the mentality in the way I raise my kids and my personality is very matter of fact, right? It always has been. I used RBF before it was a thing was me. Like I was just cold, like I didn't have time for things because I was going through so much, right? That I didn't have time for shit. My relationships that I uh picked, like I guess I always had people at arm's length.
Mm,
Always since I was a kid because I was scared of what they would do to me if I
mhm.
let them in, or I couldn't trust people. So I think I always had that. And I think that going through healing, you would think would soften me, but it hasn't. It makes me feel even more like passionate about this and saying like some people call it tough love and I like to reframe that to love. It's just love. Like do the fucking work. Like I'm
Yeah.
telling you these things because I care. If I have a conversation with you and I'm checking in on you, or I saw that you did something and I approach you about it, it's because I care and I know that you can do better. You know what I mean? So like when I reach out to people like that in a way like that, that's how it is. When my kids get in trouble, it's very rare. But like if they do, it's the the way that I parent is very like they know the boundaries, they know the rules. Anything outside of that, I'm like, "Bro." You know, so, like, when I have the conversations, it's very, like, "Fix that shit real quick."
because
And
this is what it is. Yeah.
because this is what it is, like, we don't need to go around in a circle, and I don't need to hear the excuses of why you did whatever it is that you did, and I do that to myself. I'm hard on myself. You know, like, the people like, for my spouse for myself specifically, I've talked more shit to myself, said uglier shit than anybody has
Oh,
ever
yeah.
said to me. I am harder on myself than anybody is ever gonna be. Like, I understand that. So so for me, it's like, I don't like people to come with the excuses. Like,
Yeah.
something happened, okay, how are you gonna fix it? That's something that I was always, like, really good at, like, "Alright, now what?" Like,
Yeah.
I don't wanna dwell on the shit, and, maybe that was survival, doing it, you know, but for me, I just don't like to dwell on shit anymore. It's like, let's just fix the problem and keep it.
It's like in recovery, you can choose to dwell or you can choose to get to know yourself, get to know your needs
Mm,
at all levels, right? Get to know your spiritual needs, mental, physical needs, and then learn to meet those needs. Or you can sit there and wallow and complain and play victim, right?
yeah, yeah, no, I love that you framed it that way. And so so I guess, I'll end with this question. For someone listening right now who maybe feels stuck in survival mode, or like they maybe wanna change, but they don't know where to start. What is one small action that they can take, that moves them from just getting through life to actually start, like, doing the work?
That's a good question. There's somebody that's in survival, struggling. What is the one small thing they can do?
Okay.
Meditation, 100%. If you can take 10 minutes a day to sit in silence, that is like the one habit that will compound, I think, the quickest. And it doesn't have to be like you sit in there and like a monk, you know. It can be as simple as you go for a walk without music, without earphones, or you sit down and just brain dump everything that comes up, just put it in a journal, brain dump, get it out. But you need to start spending time with yourself that's intentional. And so 10 minutes a day, make it so easy so that you can't say no. Start stringing up, build up that momentum. In 7 days of you doing something for 10 minutes a day, you're going to feel already more confident and you're going to start seeing things from a different perspective. So that's what I would recommend. It's so simple that it might seem insignificant, but if you don't minimize the simple things, then you can benefit from the compounding.
Yeah. No, for sure, and I think that's a hard thing to do is sit in the quiet. Like, me without the music, and I'm, like, sitting with the thoughts and, like, it's hard. So,
Yeah, it's
you know what
hard.
I mean?
That's something that I'm
It's
still working on because it's hard,
yeah,
but I know that
it
it
is.
helps so much that I try to do
Yeah,
it.
and you're right. And, like, when I started meditating probably, like, 2019, 2020. Dan Harris has a book, and it's, like, 1% Happier or something like that.
I'm gonna
Dan Harris.
look into
Yeah,
that one.
he was actually, he was an ABC news anchor, and he had a problem with cocaine, he talks about, and he actually had a panic attack live on air, and when he had that panic attack, it took him like, that was his jolt that he needed to figure shit out, and so he
Start
wrote his
taking
book.
care.
Yeah, I think it's 1% Happier or 10% Happier, but anyway, look up Dan Harris, and now he's on Instagram, and he does some really cool stuff. He's big on meditation. So when I was reading that, I tried meditating, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't, and
I
so
wish I could have gotten into it so long ago. I still don't do it as regularly as I wish.
it's hard, and I think that kind of going through my journey of what meditation is, it's like everything else. It's gonna work for you in a way that works for you. For me,
Mhm.
meditating is I'll put on meditation a guided meditation, or I'll put on, like, a sleep story, I use Calm. My cousin actually, she does mindful meditations with Marissa, and she has them on YouTube, and she does meditations for different things. I'm always messaging her, and I'm like, hey, can you do one for like when people are trying to cook, or can you do one for people who are? I struggle with showering, like not taking a shower, but like the act of showering. Like I don't know if I had. That's still something that I don't know if I've processed or not, but like it's so loud. I freak out. Like I have full blown panic attacks anytime I want to go shower. So it's like something that I still haven't been able to get to. But I'm like, can you do a meditation for like a shower, like 3 minutes, like
That's
just
a great
something
idea.
fast? And so there's some, but some of them are like home and then like
Yeah.
bells.
Yeah.
And so
Even that.
you're gonna have to
Even for
find some
that.
that work for you
Yeah.
because meditations are different for everybody. If you want it on your ear, if you need silence. I found a guy who does like meditation rap on Instagram. I fucking love it. I'm gonna send it
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
So like,
Listen, because I love rap.
yeah, yeah. So it's like you for everything, y'all, whatever it is, therapy, meditation, recovery, it's all gonna matter on what works for you. And we're not saying this is the way that you need to do it. You got to follow these steps and then you're going to be here. Like, that's not how it is. You have to find what works for you, but you're never going to find what works for you if you're happy and content in the shit.
In
You
the
know what I mean?
struggle.
Like, in the struggle. Yeah. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So if you're tired of it, whatever it is, take that first step and,
Start small. Yeah.
fucking start small. Yeah, like resolutions, I fucking hate resolutions. I've done 2 years episodes where I'm like, "Fuck resolutions." That's the episode title. Because what it is, it's you have to reframe it and you gotta do short goals that will turn into habits, and that's what implements change, and it's the same thing with your healing. Whether you're working out for the first time, whether you're, you know, if you're doing your peptides and you're doing all these things, you start small and you see like, "Okay, is this working for me?" That's what
The
it has
long
to do
way.
with.
The
Yeah,
long way is the
yeah,
short way, I like to say.
it is, and I hate that because I
Don't
want
we
instant
all?
gratification.
Yeah.
We
Like
want it
we
to
all.
be instant.
I relate. Yeah, I relate.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't mean you get it all figured out and then you're like, "Ah, I'm done healing and let's go fucking whatever it is that you do."
You just
No,
keep
it's
putting in effort and your intention is aligned, I think.
yes. So Sarah, for people who want to get a hold of you and are looking for your course, what's the best way?
So my Instagram handle is thriveordie.recovery. And then the course is on the website, www.thriveordierecovery.com. And then as always, you can pick up your copy of the book on Amazon, or there's a bookery in the on Donovan. It's called Cactus Flower. And you can also
Nice.
scoop it up there.
Most of us now are people who are learning from doing rather than just kind of sitting back. So thank you so much for continuing to put your work out there. And I appreciate your time. Y'all, Saturday, May 30th, we have our Healing Through Art event. Sarah will be there with us. And so we'll have copies of her book there that if you want to come down and purchase, you can either sign up for the course if you want to do it, or you can just come into to the collective and scoop one up. So DM us on Instagram if you want to reserve a book there that you can pick up, and we'll get you connected with Sarah.
Nice. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Again, I'm a huge believer in things happen when they're supposed to happen. You meet people when you're supposed to meet people, and they're there to either teach you a lesson or it's somebody that's going to be in your life and you just have a connection and
I'm gonna take that and run with it.
use it. It's because it's true. I think when we start to talk boundaries, people kind of like, ugh, especially when you talk boundaries about family, people are like, ugh. And all boundaries do is protect you
Yeah.
and let people who want to abide by those boundaries
Be a part of your life.
be part of your life. Yeah. And if they don't, then they don't. And it's removing themselves and protecting your peace, as Sarah says in her book. You're protecting your peace. So, yeah, it was like the longest close ever. But remember, you.
I'm sure you can piece it together.
No, it's cool. But yeah, so upcoming, so Tuesday, tomorrow, 5/26, is Yvette and I will be on 93.1 Kiss FM 9 a.m. with
Wow.
Grizz to talk about the event. So you
Your
guys can
eight
catch us
spots are
on that.
gonna fill up.
8 spots, y'all. So
Yeah.
get them in. And so let me explain. So like people have reached out and like, well, how many spots? And why are we doing it so small? And the reason that we're doing it is because the space that we are trying to create is intentional. We want it to be where it's safe, where you're getting the attention that you need and you feel comfortable in it. We want to create the places that we wish are around. And because wellness events are fantastic, they're amazing, but a lot of them just turn into vendors markets. And all we're trying to do is really show you that you can paint a canvas and you can leave feeling empowered through it. That's a step in healing. It's going to be a guided with Dr. Ortiz of Mind Forward Health Center talking about inner child. And then Yvette, Honey and Myrrh collective, she's going to be guiding you through the painting aspect of it. So it's going to be super cool. We're going to have coffee and snacks and all of that jazz. So make sure that you guys sign up. Next thing, Tuesday, the 26th, which is tomorrow, it's election day for the runoffs that we have going on. Voting is important, especially in these local elections. I'm sure you guys get tired of hearing me say this, but that affects your mental health. So make sure that you get involved in the community and know what's going on. So that way you can show the people in power that they work for us, motherfuckers. I'm so disappointed in, in so many of our local leaders. Anyway, that's a whole nother show. So thank you for listening. Keep on talking about the hard things so that you can start appreciating the good things. Remember that talking only can do so much. You have to take action for change to happen. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.